안녕하세요. 여러분의 한국어 선생님 고빌리입니다. Welcome back to the final part of this 7-episode series where I analyze each of the BTS members' Korean. Now, if you're new to my channel here, I am a Korean teacher and I've been studying Korean for almost 18 years, teaching it here on YouTube for now over 10 years, and I can speak it fluently. And in this video today, I'm going to share my professional analysis of Jungkook's Korean. Specifically, what I'll be sharing is how he sounds overall as a Korean speaker, including any dialect he uses, common expressions, and just everything to paint a picture of who he is, at least as much as I can tell through analyzing his Korean. And although I'm not perfect at Korean, since I'm obviously not a native speaker, I'll still do the best that I can. And if you would like to see more videos like this, please give this video a like and subscribe. Also, please consider joining my Patreon page as a supporter. Please, it helps me to make more videos like these, and you can even send me your ideas for new videos that you would like to see. Since this is the 7th episode, there's only one member I haven't analyzed yet, and that's Jungkook, or Jungkook in Korean.
이렇게. Oh! Party, yeah!
Party, yeah! Jungkook was born in 1997 in the city of Busan. Just like Jimin, and Busan is located in the southeast part of Korea in an area known as the Gyeongsang province. In fact, Suga and V are also from that same province. So when I talk about Jungkook's dialect, you might find some similarities. In BTS, Jungkook is the main vocalist, and although he's the youngest member, 막내, meaning the youngest, his wide variety of talents has earned him the special nickname of 황금 막내, or golden 막내. Now I see why he's the main vocalist. And Jungkook being the youngest, so the 막내, also affects how he uses Korean to the other members, because he often talks about how he was raised by his 6 older brothers.
저 이제 15살 올라가지고 옆에서 되게 어떻게 보면 저를 키운 거죠.
근데 든든하죠. 이렇게 좋은 형들이 6명이나 있는데.
And the way you would speak to, say, a friend who's older and to an older brother can be a bit different, and you'll hear that in a little bit in how he speaks. In addition, being the youngest, I feel that he's also the most connected to the latest news and gossip on the internet, especially memes, which you'll also see in a bit. So let's get into my analysis of Jungkook as a Korean speaker, starting with his usage of 존댓말, or polite speech.
그러니까 눈을 가리고 술래잡기를 하자는 소리지? 너 참 똑똑한데? 조용히 놀아보자. 좋아. 막내 어때?
좋네요.
So Jimin asks him, 막내 어때? What do you think, youngest member? So here Jimin is using 반말, which is casual speech toward Jungkook. But then when Jungkook replies, instead of just saying 좋네, which would be casual, he says 좋네요, which is polite speech. Now, in Korean, your age, specifically the year that you were born, is what determines how you speak to someone else. So older friends will typically speak more casually to younger friends, and younger friends will speak more politely to older friends. And being the youngest, Jungkook is required to speak a bit more politely to his older brothers, while they can speak more casually to him. And here's another example of that.
야, 너는 왜 앞머리가 안 뜨냐?
진짜 되게 안정감 있게 뛰거든요.
Both na and 저 mean I or me, and you'll typically use na when you're speaking to friends who are the same age as you or younger, and 저 to older friends who you're speaking politely to. However, in BTS, most of the members and most of the time will all just use na to refer to themselves regardless of their ages, as they're more like a family than just a group of friends. But not always, and I often hear Jungkook using the more polite 저 to talk about himself, and I think it just shows how much respect he has for the other members. For those of you out there watching who maybe you're not a member of BTS, I recommend using 저 for everyone you meet, except your friends who are the same age as you or younger. And I don't want to spend too much time on this topic, but pay attention to the endings of his sentences, and you're going to notice that Jungkook uses verb endings such as 요 or words like 저 more than the other members. But while he's the youngest and therefore has to speak the most politely, he does get to use 반말 often, so casual speech, when he's joking, and he does joke around quite a bit.
야, 진짜 약간 감독하는 것처럼 해봐 네가.
탈관?
원래 감독님도 반말한다고. 야, 다 지금 갈게.
That's true.
액션.
He points out that a director should use 반말 and then begins giving out orders in casual speech. So perhaps as a result of having to speak a bit more politely than the others, Jungkook seems to speak the least of all the members. Well, whenever they're together in one group.
야, 시끄러워 이거. 야, 이거 너무 시끄러워. 너무 시끄러워요 이거.
Now, although I said he speaks the least, when he does speak, I feel there's a lot more impact. Because I feel like Jungkook really only says things that he actually wants to, or that he needs to say. Okay, but I think something more interesting than just his polite speech or speaking less than others is his writing. Take a look at this letter that he wrote to his fans. I can't emphasize this enough, but his letters are very simple and very clean. In fact, it's so simple and clean that it actually reminds me more of a Korean learner than a native speaker. And I can tell that he wrote each letter separately, one at a time, and the syllables don't flow together like they were written all at once. Some of the letters, it also seems like he's still practicing how to write them, and you can see that clearly in his 기억, the K or G letter, such as in the word 뜨거웠던. It looks like he wrote this letter a little bit extra slowly and carefully. And the same goes for his letter, his 시옷, the S letter, which looks kind of like an upside down V. So I think that he's still practicing the overall balance of his syllables. And while he still writes better than me, being the youngest, I think he might need some more time to polish his handwriting. To be fair though, this letter was from several years ago, and it's just one example. So why don't we look at something else? Yeah, this does look a lot different. In fact, if you told me this was a different person, I would believe you. Ignore the very top part that says 지민이 형. He just wrote it like that to be funny. Here, all of the letters are so much more balanced. Perfect stroke order. And it starts out easy to read and slow, and then starts to look more like fast handwriting as you move down. Once you reach the bottom line, you might even have to ask a fluent or a native Korean speaker to read it for you. So that's what I'll do. 형 사랑하고 다시 한번 생일 축하드려요. 다음에 밥 한 끼 제가 사겠습니다. So I love you, brother, and once again, happy birthday. Next time, I'll buy you a meal. And even in this birthday postcard to Jimin, Jungkook is being very formal. There aren't even any jokes in here. He writes, 저는 정국입니다. It's me, Jungkook. And he uses all polite and formal endings, such as this one, 생일 축하드려요, instead of just 생일 축하해요, which is a more humble sounding way of saying happy birthday. Now, the letter is written in a friendly manner. It's not like he wrote it like a serious essay to Jimin, but it also sounds very respectful. But let's just see one more example to check. Again, we have an entirely different style of writing, unlike either of the two other examples. In fact, this one I can see he's using a more traditional style with more curved letters. Look at how he writes 무엇이든, meaning whatever, toward the bottom of the letter. In the first syllable, 무, the oo vowel is curved upward to the side. And this is really more of a calligraphy style of writing, and this sort of thing is all over the letter. However, this more fancy style is also mixed with just a more simpler style of writing. So look at this sentence here. 그리고 다시 출발해. The syllables in this part are written very far apart, one at a time, and this is more like how you might see a Korean learner write, or just someone younger write. And I think I know what's going on. Jungkook is still younger than the others, and perhaps he's still not sure just what his writing should be yet. And I get that. When I did my first fan meetup in Korea, which was just in 2019, I experienced something really strange that I had never had happen to me before, and that was people asking me for my autograph. In fact, this is the original file from back when I was trying to decide how I wanted to sign my name when people asked. And you can see that the one in the bottom right corner is the one that I eventually decided on. And I think that what Jungkook is doing is something similar with his writing. So just give him some more time. I'm sure it'll all start to look more uniform as he's given more time to practice. But there is a benefit to having simpler and cleaner writing like this. And that's what I think makes Jungkook one of the easiest members to understand in BTS. Here's a clip.
아, 감기 너무 싫어. 감기는 왜 있는 걸까? 왜 존재하지? 그래서 감기가 걸렸다. 어떻게 해야 되겠어요? 지금 내가 여기서 할 수 있는 게 무엇일까? 병원도 갈 수 있고 감기 걸린 내 자신을 탓하지 말고 그 상황에서 해결할 수 있는 어떤 방안들 그런 거를 찾아서 해결하자.
Here he's talking about having caught a cold, and he makes an interesting point about not trying to blame yourself when you get sick, but to instead focus on how to get better. But what stands out when I hear him speak is that his sentences are usually short and to the point. And not just like V, who also makes shorter sentences, but Jungkook, as I said, tends to say only what he really wants to say. And that leads him to making sentences that are not only short, but are in themselves full sentences and are simple and easy to understand. Now, you have to still know Korean to understand him, obviously, but I think in comparison to someone like RM, who loves to make longer and more complicated sentences, I think that Jungkook speaking could be great listening practice for Korean learners. Listen to how he starts this clip. 아, 감기 너무 싫어. I hate colds. 감기는 왜 있는 걸까? Why are there colds? 왜 존재하지? Why do they exist? All of these are full sentences, and he's finishing his thoughts before going to the next sentence. And here's another example.
이제 먹을까? 이제 나를 위해서 케이크를 준비했어요.
Here he says, 이제 나를 위해서 케이크를 준비했어요, which translates as, well, let's let him translate it.
Prepared
Nice.
my cake.
And I think if you're a Korean learner hearing this sentence, you might think, hey, I can understand him. In fact, even beginners, I think if you have access to Korean subtitles of him speaking, you'll be surprised by how much of what he's saying that you can follow along. Here's another clip.
오늘은 요즘 어떤 생각을 하고 있었는지 얘기를 해드리려고 라이브를 켰습니다.
Not only are his sentences shorter and get straight to the point, but often when he's relaxed, he likes to speak a bit slower too. And I think even many of you could write down most of what he's saying in this clip. 오늘은 요즘 어떤 생각을 하고 있었는지 얘기를 해드리려고 라이브를 켰습니다. So I turned on this live stream today to let you know what I've been thinking about lately. And what I can tell from watching him is that he seems to ponder a lot. He's always thinking about things. And while he's not expressing all of his thoughts to us, the ones that he does express tend to be easier to understand, even as a Korean learner. Now, this doesn't mean that he's always super easy, barely an inconvenience to understand. But again, if you have subtitles, it will definitely help.
제가 설명해줄게요. 컴퓨터 하고 있는데 막 뒤에서 막 제가 처음에는 진짜 하지 말라고 해요. 한두 번도 아니고 지민이 형은 솔직히 장난치면 한두 번에 끝난단 말이에요.
Even if you can't hear everything he's saying in this clip, because everyone's kind of talking at once and there aren't any subtitles, you can still hear parts of his sentences very clearly, such as like 진짜, 막, or 근데. And these are some of his most common filler words, so words that he uses to fill up space or to give his sentences more emphasis. But that's nothing out of the ordinary, as most younger people these days will use some of those same words. So again, if you're able to just hear the words that he's saying and it's not really a busy situation like this, you'll find that his actual sentences are more often than not clear and simple. At least when he's not using his Busan dialect.
할래 걸려 뭐 대충 하면 되지 뭐.
Because when Jungkook uses his dialect, well, he uses dialect. Okay, now while he's originally from Busan, he only lived there until he was a middle school student, after which he moved to Seoul. So he's not going to be speaking thick dialect the same as someone who was, say, able to spend more of their time there. But I think that he still grew up with a decent exposure to the dialect, because when he wants to use it, he does sound like he's from there.
야, 나 장난 아니다.
Again, most of the time when Jungkook is speaking in Busan dialect, it's not as thick as you might think. The majority of what he's saying is just in 표준어, so standard Korean, which is just like the other members. But when he does speak in Busan dialect, imagine someone who's from Texas, say, who when you ask them to say something with their Texas accent replies with, "Howdy, partner, this ain't my first rodeo." Apologies for my terrible accent if you're from Texas, I am not. But what I'm trying to say is that most of the time when Jungkook is using dialect, it's really just his intonation that changes and not really so many different words. So it comes across more like he's mimicking his dialect and not that it's something he would use just on a regular basis.
엄마,
엄마.
촬영 중인데 그 나오는 노래 뭔지 맞춰봐봐. 영떡스 클럽 노래인데 맞춰봐봐. 뭔 노래고?
Dialect.
뭔 노래고?
At least most of the time, you can still hear at the end of this clip that he uses dialect to his mom. So he hasn't forgotten his dialect, he simply doesn't use it much. And this makes sense because Jungkook being the youngest also means he had less time to be exposed to the dialect, even compared to Jimin, who had about an extra 2 years before his debut. And since he no longer lives in Busan, he has even fewer chances to practice what he knows. So he definitely is using dialect, but that also means that his dialect will be a bit easier for learners to understand. And I'm going to be showing you some tricks to look out for that will help you to understand him, starting with this ending, 다이가.
너무 빠르다 댓글이 빠르다 이가 뭐 공부하기 싫으면 뭐 하지 마라 걔한테 하고 싶은 거 해라 하기 싫은 거 하지 마라.
Here, Jungkook is jokingly using some dialect on a live stream and replying to some of the comments. And a couple of his sentences are using Busan dialect and intonation. First, he says, 너무 빠르다 댓글이. So the comments are going by too fast. And then he switches to dialect and says, 빠르다이가, meaning they're so fast. This ending, 아이가, is attached after a verb that's conjugated to what's known as the plain form. So with adjectives, this is the same as the verb. So 빠르다, meaning to be fast, is just 빠르다이가. And for verbs, 하다, meaning like to do, you would get 한다, so 한다이가. Now, this is just a common ending used in the Gyeongsang province, such as in Busan, and it just adds some emphasis to your sentences, so it makes them sound stronger. Oh, I should note that this is only used in casual speech, so feel free to use it to your close friends. And then at the end of this, he also says, 하기 싫은 거 하지 마라. Don't do what you don't want to do. Now, this is mostly just standard Korean. It's casual speech, of course, but the intonation that he's using transforms it from standard Korean into dialect. Here's another example.
무섭다 이거.
Instead of just saying 너무 무섭다, meaning I'm so scared, he says 너무 무섭다 이거. And one more example.
끓는다 이거.
끓는다 이거. It's boiling. And here's something else that he does.
마. 열려라. 마.
Here, Jungkook is recording an alarm sound telling you to wake up, and he starts by saying 마, 일어나라, meaning hey, wake up. 마 in Gyeongsang dialect has the same meaning as ya in standard Korean, which is used when you're calling out to someone like hey, but it sounds a bit stronger. So definitely don't use that to strangers or people who are older. But here it's fine because he's just joking. So the good news is that if you just learn some of these basic verb endings and expressions, you'll have no problem understanding him, even when he uses some Busan dialect. However, there's not much I can do to help you understand him when he's using memes, because Jungkook is definitely the king of memes, and just being goofy all around, and it's for a good reason. Jungkook seems well connected, not just with the internet, but also with his fans, and he seems to know what jokes and memes are popular at any given moment. For example, this clip went viral of an older man who's able to name all of the members of BTS.
이거 누군지 알겠어요?
아, 요거 읽으면 방탄소년단이요.
방탄소년단이요.
김비, 정국, 지민, 수가 랩 몬스터.
랩 몬스터. And who was the first member to parody this? Yep, it's Jungkook. Oh no. Oh no. Here's another Korean meme from a TV show where the chef asks one of the cast members to try separating the pieces of jujube, 가능한, meaning to try to do it as much as possible. Take a look.
그냥 이렇게 놓으면 또 보기가 안 좋잖아요.
So don't just put them in like this, it doesn't look nice. As much as possible, you gotta make it so you can see the red parts. 가능한. Not that she wanted him to say the word 가능한, but she wanted him to try doing that as much as possible. And of course, who parodied this clip?
자, 따라해봐요.
And these clips are really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Jungkook referencing memes. But not only Korean memes, Jungkook is also well aware of memes just in general, such as the one of the guy adding salt.
여기 다 해야지 여기 이렇게.
And not just memes, but slang words too. Jungkook seems to be up to date on his slang words, much more than the average Korean, and just uses a lot of slang regularly.
야, 그거 좋은데?
건달 스타일로. 나 건달 옆에 있는 오른팔.
Here he uses the expression 건달 style for the clothes that he picks, which is pretty funny. Now, 건달 itself isn't really slang, but it's used like that, and it means like not a gangster necessarily, but like someone you might see on the side of the street in Korea who might be a gangster. You know what? Here's a picture of Kondar style. Anyway, so I think in order to understand all of his memes and jokes, you would really just have to be a native level Korean speaker or at least very advanced. And while I am advanced at the language, I still can't keep up with all of those memes. Okay, and I could keep going on and on about slang words and memes, but that's enough for this video. If you enjoyed this video, or maybe this whole series, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more. And also, if you'd like to support me in making more videos like these, please also consider joining my Patreon page or becoming a member on my channel. And I'll put links for how you can support me in the description below. Researching for this series has given me greater respect of what BTS has been doing and helped me to better understand the members a lot more than I did before, and I hope that this series has also given you a better look into each of the BTS members. So, thank you for watching, and I will see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐!